What a difference a weekend makes. I mean, everything has changed. And this offseason in the NFL is unlike any we've ever seen. 9 coaches will be brand new at the start of the 2022 NFL season. 4 brand new GMs. A quarter of the league have new GMs. These are positions that rarely turn over, yet a quarter, or not a quarter, an eighth, excuse me, of the league has new GMs, and over a quarter of the league has new head coaches. And don't get me started on the quarterback position in the National Football League. Hell, the guys even calling the game have different homes. What the hell is going on out there? Who else could it be but me, your man, Louie T? Welcome to the 247th installment of the Louie T Network podcast. I, of course, am your set man, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. Wow, it's really all that I can say. I mean, seriously, what more can I say? The NFL has gone full out NBA on us. And I was having a conversation at the barbershop. You know, there's nothing like a good old-fashioned barbershop conversation to set you straight, because 9 times out of 10, the conversation at the barbershop is frivolous and makes absolutely no sense. It's nonsensical. But anytime I speak at the barbershop, I try to impart knowledge, and it's usually a healthy debate, because no one ever agrees at the barbershop. That doesn't happen at the barbershop. So, but when I was talking, I said something, and I've said this before, I think to you guys, I may not have, which is why I'm bringing it up again. But this feels like the NBA. This feels NBA-ish, this offseason does, in the way that we've seen all of these moves made. I mean, generally the NFL, not that it stays static, but rarely do you see this much change. If you went after the season was done, let's say on February 17th, you decided you wanted to take a sabbatical. You were going to put down your phones and all of your electronic devices, and you were going to go to Tibet. And you weren't going to watch any television. You weren't going to check your phone. You're going to unplug from the society and social media and all the things that drive you insane. You just wanted serenity and peace. So you went to Tibet. And you came back today. You would not know what the hell just happened. Your head would be spinning, and you would be about to have a brain aneurysm with all the changes that have happened in the NFL. And it's not just the changes on the field. I mean, Troy Aikman and Joe Buck are now doing games for ESPN. Al Michaels is now doing games for Amazon on Thursday nights. I mean, what the hell is going on? I mean, this shit is crazy. Nothing's the same. Everything has changed. So we're going to get to the bottom of all of this, because if we thought all of the dominoes that had fallen were crazy, more have fallen. And we talked about the Deshaun Watson episode and how that was starting to ruffle feathers in multiple spots. Like, Deshaun Watson comes back and everybody just starts falling all over themselves trying to get to him. And in the process, burning bridges and destroying relationships that they had been forging for years, just in the pursuit of him, not guaranteed to get him. And then the team that told themselves we're out, then they go back to their guy who's now pissed off because you disrespected him, says, I want out. They go back into the Deshaun Watson sweepstakes and say, hey, we're all in. As a matter of fact, we'll give you this big fat ass contract. We'll guarantee you just about all of it. And we will safeguard you from any harm should suspension or penalty come down upon your head. He can't say no to that, right? Deshaun Watson can't say no to that. And so the Browns get their guy, and the Falcons are like, hey, we just destroyed a relationship with Matt Ryan, a guy that's been a very faithful and servient leader for over a decade here in Atlanta, almost took us to a Super Bowl. We just destroyed that bridge, all in the name of you, and now you're scorning us for this guy? You were pretty much going to sign here on the dotted line. What just happened? I don't know. Let's talk about it, though. And you know the way we like to talk about things here on the Louie T Network. We always started out with a good old-fashioned gem drop-in session. Let me drop this gem on your melon. Open your mind, let your conscience be free. You're now rolling with your man, Louie T double E. Let me open you up, get you thinking a little bit. Let's open that noggin up, man, because my mind was blown over the weekend. Total mind blow as to all of the events that transpired. We talked about this on Friday on the podcast with the Kyle Pitts tweet that was deleted about things about to get scary in Atlanta. And he deleted it quickly because nothing was finalized in Atlanta. And clearly it did not go the way Kyle Pitts thought it was going to go. And so, but everybody, the assumption was Deshaun Watson was going to land in one of two spots, Atlanta or New Orleans. And to be honest with you, I didn't think either of them were ideal locales for his services. However, it is what it is. And so the Browns had apparently dropped out and the Panthers had apparently dropped out. So it was just down to two. And the team that seemed to be the front runner was his hometown team, the Atlanta Falcons, where he was from. So it all seemed like it was coming together. The Falcons were going to be the team to land Deshaun Watson, and then they were going to move on from Matt Ryan, and all would be right with the world for the Atlanta Falcons. Because to me, this didn't just start this year. This started last year. And I'm really going to jump on the Falcons here because to me, they've made a mess of things. I want to see how they clean this up. This is a mess on aisle 2 because now Matt Ryan's pissed off. Now that's why he's in New Orleans or Indianapolis. But if you were going to go this route, why didn't you just take a quarterback last year? We'll put a pin in that. We'll come back to that. But let's go back a bit and talk about how all of this came to be. So Watson becomes available. All the criminal charges essentially have been swatted away. The grand jury decides none of these 22 different cases deserve to be tried in a criminal setting. So the civils, you guys go have fun with that in the civil court. But here in the criminal courts, not going to pop off. So they swatted those away. So now he feels vindicated, and all the teams around the league that are interested say, oh, okay, it's Birdman season now. Let's go. All right. So now we can go after our guy. Not so fast. We talked about the backlash that this would have, and there are still a lot of people who are not happy about this. And I get both sides of the argument, okay? If you flip a coin and it lands on heads, and that's the side that says this is wrong, Deshaun Watson should not be rewarded for, 22 civil suits that are currently out on him. He should, at a bare minimum, not be allowed to play football, let alone be rewarded with a 5-year, $230 million contract, essentially, that's fully guaranteed. And if he should be suspended, he'll only be docked $1 million. That's, to me, not punishment enough if you're one of those 22 women, right? So I get that. I get that angle, and I get that argument. You flip to the other side of the coin, it lands on tails, and that's the Deshaun Watson side of this thing that says, hey, I've done nothing wrong. There's no criminal proof here. And these civil cases, I'm going to fight them tooth and nail. And while I'm fighting them, I should be able to earn a living because I didn't do anything wrong in this situation. I get that too. Innocent until proven guilty. I understand that. And the people on the other side of the corner saying, and that's fine. And we grant you that opportunity to prove your innocence. But while you're doing that, you shouldn't be allowed to play football. So I get the arguments on both sides. I'm not here to pick a side because I get it on both ends of the spectrum. That said, the Browns said, to hell with all of that. We've done our research, a research that you can call into question because it did not include speaking to any of the 22 women that have filed lawsuits, nor talking to the attorney for those 22 women. Why do I keep saying Williams? To the 22 women, Tony Busby, who is the law attorney for those 22 women, didn't include talking to any of them. It reminds me of when Washington claimed they did their homework on linebacker Reuben Foster and went ahead and put in a claim when nobody else in the league was willing to touch him with the 10-foot pole. Bruce Allen goes in, puts in a claim, says he's done his homework, yet he talked to no one in regards to Reuben Foster's legal situation, not the attorney representing his ex-girlfriend, not the ex-girlfriend herself, no one that had any information that could have dissuaded Washington. He just said, hey, I did my homework. I talked to the necessary people, and I'm comfortable with putting in this waiver claim for Reuben Foster. It feels a lot like that. You do the homework, enough due diligence that makes you feel comfortable, but you don't want to hear the stuff that will make you feel uncomfortable because you want to claim ignorance. I didn't know. So the easiest way to do that is to just not find out. Ignorance is bliss. So Browns claim they've done enough homework. They're comfortable with the situation, and they went ahead and put forth this deal. So Deshaun Watson is now a Cleveland Brown, swooped him right from the clutches and the grasp and the hawk talons of the Atlanta Falcons, who thought they were going to be able to sign Deshaun Watson to a long-term deal. Now, he's a Cleveland Brown. We'll, again, put a pin in that. We'll come back. We'll talk about the ramifications of that deal, the fallout from it. Obviously, there's a fallout. We touched on that briefly on Friday with Baker Mayfield. We'll go back to that a little bit later on. But I want to go back and circle around, take that pin out of the Atlanta Falcons now, okay? So they thought they were going to get Deshaun Watson. They didn't, all right? And although they didn't go about it as greasy and grimy as the Cleveland Browns did, which is essentially go behind Baker Mayfield's back and do this, they actually told Matt Ryan what they were planning on doing. It still is effed up. Still like, Matt, oh, man, we really love you, bruh. Really appreciate everything you've done for this franchise ever since we drafted you. What was it, back in like 08? I mean, it's been such a long time. We love you, man. 07, 08, however long you've been here, man. We really appreciate the service. We appreciate that 2016 season. It was magical. Almost won us a Super Bowl. You were league MVP, man. That was great. But your time's up here in Atlanta. And I think we're going to try to go in a different direction. Not quite sure what direction that's going to be. We think it's going to be Watson, but if it's not, we'd love to have you back. And Matt's like, nah, this ain't how this works, okay? If you're going to go away from me, go away from me. I sat here last year, no Calvin Ridley, no Julio Jones. All I had was a running back that was a receiver / running back / Mr. Do-It-All in Cordell Patterson and Kyle Pitts. I had nothing else to work with. And yet I found a way to put us within a game or two of the postseason. And this is how you treat me. Okay. I want out. And so they were scrambling. They were left scrambling. And my whole thought process was, you knew that this was what you were going to do with Matt Ryan eventually. This isn't a surprise. You knew that this day was going to come where eventually you were going to have to move on from Matt Ryan. We all looked at this situation. I talked about this ad nauseum last season because it was such a fascinating position for the Falcons to be in. And the thing that made it a little bit more difficult for them to move away from Matt Ryan at the time, and I totally understood it. One, his contract was unmovable last year. So you didn't have to go away from him. But my whole thought process was, you draft his replacement in the draft last year. You're sitting there at 4th overall. Now, here's something that we talked about last year. I'm going to bring it up again because this is the proper context to have this discussion with. Maybe they didn't love any of the remaining quarterbacks. Remember, 1, 2, 3, bing, bang, boom, went Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, and Trey Lance. Maybe they loved those 3, didn't love any of the other 3 that ultimately went in the first round. Maybe they didn't love Justin Fields or Mac Jones. That's 2. Was there one more? I think that was it, right? Maybe they didn't love any of the other 2 that went in the first round. Okay? I get it. I totally understand if you didn't love the other 2 options that remained in Justin Fields and Mac Jones, and you said, I'm not going to just take a quarterback for the sake of taking a quarterback. We don't love any of these guys, so we're just going to pass on the position as a whole. Okay, I get it. Totally understand. You can't then do what you did this year. If your plan last year was to, let's go with Matt Ryan because we got a new GM, we got a new head coach. We don't want to, shake everything up all at once. It's already a lot going on here. We need stability at the quarterback position. You could have done that by drafting a guy and having him sit on the bench behind Matt Ryan and had this process already in full motion, right? But again, if you didn't love any of those quarterbacks, and I can't say what you did or didn't, then I get it. That's cool. Fine. Whatever. Now we fast forward to this year. You go all in on Deshaun Watson to the dismay of Matt Ryan. He feels disrespected, feels like you don't value him and what he's done for your organization by the way you've gone about this. And I don't blame him for feeling that way, because after you didn't get Deshaun Watson, you could have easily gone back to Matt Ryan, which you tried to do, and say, hey, Matt, it's business. It's nothing personal. We love you. All right. And so he didn't come here. So we're going to roll back with you and we're going to go through this thing and we'll try again next time. And Matt's like, no. This was a one-time thing. You didn't get him, but that means you're going to continue to try to replace me all the while I'm still here trying to play football to help you win. Trade me somewhere else where I'm valued. So they had to go ahead. And even though they were on the hook for $40+ million in dead cap, if they moved him, they were so hell-bent on getting rid of him because he wanted out and they wanted to do right by Matt Ryan, which this is the least you can do. They trade him to Indy for a third. Indy then eats the bonus that he was going to get if he were on the Falcons roster by 4 o'clock on Monday, 4 p.m. Monday. They would have owed him a $9 million roster bonus. So instead of paying him that $9 million, they trade him to Indy. Indy picks up the $9 million in addition to the $54 million that's due to Matt Ryan over the next 2 years. So essentially $54 million. You divide it by two, $27 million per, which is nothing for the goal, in terms of the going rate for quarterbacks in the league right now. That's chump change, right? So Colts give up a third-round pick, get Matt Ryan, okay, and the Colts have like 67 third-round picks. So what's the third-round pick to the Colts right now? Like, that's chump change. Here, take the third-rounder, give us Matt Ryan, and give us a chance to win what is arguably the worst division in all of football, the AFC South. So now they're back in the mix in the AFC South. They've essentially replaced Carson Wentz with a more reliable, more stable, may not be more talented, but a more reliable, more stable quarterback in Matt Ryan that will probably get them either into the postseason or right around where Carson Wentz had them. They're no worse for the wear. After giving up a 1 and a 3, they essentially got 2 3s back in return, maybe even a 2 for Wentz, flipped one of those 3s for Matt Ryan. And so they've essentially gained themselves back a 3, maybe a 2, and they've either upgraded or at worst, they've flatlined at the quarterback position and they're now even to where they were before they traded away Carson Wentz. So the Colts feel like, hey, here we go again on this carousel. They still don't really know what the hell the long-term plan is. They're kind of just flying off the cuff. The Colts are just kind of hanging out there in the wind. They have no idea. They're like a hippie in the 60s. We're just going with the flow, man. They're out here at Woodstock, no clothes on, smoking weed, just like, hey, man, wherever the wind blows us and takes us, that's where we're going to go, man. I don't trust the government. Like, that's the Colts right now. They have no identity. They have no plan for the future. They're just doing it. And that's evident by their quarterback situation the last 7 years. They have not had the same starting quarterback the last 7 years. It's I think going all the way back to like 2014, it's Luck, then it's some rando, then it's Luck again in 16, then it's I forget who. I think it was Jacoby Brissett in 17. Then it, I don't know. It's a list of who's who at the quarterback position. It's a mess. I think it was Luck 16, Brissett 17, Luck 18, and then 19. I think it was somebody else. Then it was Phillip Rivers 2020, and then it was Carson Wentz 2021. Like I said, it's been a mess over the last 5, 6, 7 years from the Indianapolis Colts at the quarterback position. Their GM refuses to draft a quarterback because he knows if it doesn't work, he's going to get fired. So he's like, I'll just find a way to continue to circumvent the system. Eventually, they're going to have to do something. They can't keep getting these old-ass 38-year-old quarterbacks and thinking that they're going to do something, big. But Matt Ryan gives them, at worst, a placeholder, a guy that will come in, win them football games. If they get the same thing they got out of their defense and their running game last year, Matt Ryan will win them enough games to get to the postseason because he's a better manager of the game than that of Carson Wentz. That said, the Falcons, to me, in all of this are the biggest losers because you weren't probably going to do anything anyway, right? You look at the NFC conference, though, and you look around and you say, what the hell's stopping the Falcons with Matt Ryan in tow from making the postseason? What's stopping you from doing that, right? Because it's literally Aaron Rodgers without Devontae Adams, you've got to think that the Packers are going to do something at receiver, whether it's draft a guy in the first round, which I think right now it's a foregone conclusion they're going to draft a guy in the first round. But they may even try to do something in free agency. I don't know what's out there to be done at this point of free agency with Allen Robinson going off the market. I don't really know if there's anybody out there, that really moves the needle. Maybe Odell Beckham Jr. when he's healthy is a guy they flirted the idea of bringing him in when he was fully healthy after he was released by Cleveland. Maybe they go back down that road again once he's healthy. But they've got to do something at receiver. But that team doesn't scare you without Devontae Adams right now. They just don't. I mean, yep, they got Aaron Rodgers, but you're not afraid of the Green Bay Packers without Devontae Adams. He was literally the biggest part of their offense. So he's now out of the mix. You got to see who they replace him with first before you look at Green Bay as a true serious contender. Tampa Bay is still Tampa Bay because they've got all their pieces coming back. They just re-signed Chris Godwin. They got Brady back in tow. They'll probably get Gronk back here shortly. They just re-signed Leonard Fournette. So just like after the Super Bowl, they're bringing the whole band back essentially again. So they'll be right back in the mix. That's to me the leader in the clubhouse in the NFC right now is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But after the Bucs, I think everybody else has a chance. You just fall in line, get in where you fit in, and you just say, all right, why not us? So if you're Atlanta with Matt Ryan at quarterback, you thought you were getting Calvin Ridley back. Clearly, you're not getting Calvin Ridley back. But okay, fine. You figure out the receiver position. You're probably going to have to take one this year. But now that you don't have Matt Ryan, now you need a quarterback. This is a deep drafted receiver. You don't have to get one in the first round. You get one in the second round. You get one in the third round. So they'll figure out receiver. You get Cordero Patterson back, which you've done, which is what you had to do. You've got Kyle Pitts. So it's not like you don't have any weapons, but you still don't have any receivers right now to speak of. So you've got to do some work. And I think you need 2 or 3 receivers. You can't just go out and get one. You even lost Russell Gage in free agency. Like you need 2 or 3 receivers. But now you need a quarterback. And going out and getting Marcus Mariota on a 2-year, bridge, type quarterback contract to come in here and stabilize things because he's got a working history with your head coach, Arthur Smith. That's cool. It's cute. And he was one of the options that teams were going to be interested in this offseason anyway. So kudos to you for working quickly after moving on from Matt Ryan to get him. But this is far from an answer, not one that if you're a Falcons fan that you wanted. And we've already stated this before. The problem with Marcus Mariota isn't the talent, okay? It's his inability to stay healthy. He is not going to stay healthy for 17 weeks. I guarantee you that. I'll bet you anything right now, Marcus Mariota misses at least a game this season. I'd venture to say 3 or 4 games this season, whether it's a hamstring or he broke his finger on somebody's helmet or he separated his shoulder diving or something's going to happen to him. He always gets hurt. He's like Tyrod Taylor. We say this about Tyrod Taylor, and just like clockwork, Tyrod Taylor gets injured, okay? That's what's going to happen to Marcus Mariota. You're not getting through a full 17 games with Marcus Mariota as your quarterback. Now, all signs point to the Falcons drafting a quarterback, which is why I double back to last year. If you're going to draft a quarterback this year that you had to convince yourself that you love, which you don't, but you're convincing yourself that you do because you need one, you should have taken one last year, whether it was Justin Fields or Mac Jones. The miggity, Mac, bo. Mac Jones looked just like Matt Ryan. He looked just like Matt Ryan. You had the opportunity to take him. You passed on him, and now you're going to try to sell me on the fact that Kenny Pickett or Malik Willis or Matt Corral may be the one guy that I look in and say, okay, I can dig it. But you're trying to convince me that Kenny Pickett or Malik Willis or one of these quarterbacks is the right man for the job in Atlanta moving forward? Yeah, right. They're like, so the Falcons to me screwed the pooch. I don't love what they've done here. And I get it. You got a guy that's going to come in, give you an opportunity. But again, he's going to get injured. And I don't love what the Falcons have done here. And this goes all the way back to last year when they had a chance. I talked about this. You could take Kyle Pitts. And look, you can't go wrong taking Kyle Pitts. But the right move here is to plan for the future. You were already rebuilding anyway. Take the quarterback. Let that guy sit and start planning for the future. Yeah, I get it. You weren't going to find another Kyle Pitts. He's a unicorn. I get it. Now you don't have a quarterback. And good luck trying to find one in this draft. There may be one of the 6 guys that we've talked about that are draftable that may be able to help. There may be one guy that ascends to more than an average quarterback to a backup in this league. It may be one guy that may ascend to the ranks of, hey, he's above average as a starter in this league. One guy. Good luck finding that one out of the 6, choosing the right guy. My money's on Matt Corral, but we'll see what happens. Anyway, now you go to the Cleveland Browns side of things. So they're getting a lot of pushback from a lot of different angles. You've got Cleveland Browns fans that are like, I'm done with this organization. Can't believe they did this. You got women everywhere screaming that this is the biggest bunch of bull they've ever seen. It's not a good look for the Browns. They don't give a shit. Okay. They do not care. They're trying to win football games. I get that, but at what cost, right? What cost to your brand? So, and again, some of this is unfair to Deshaun Watson, but he put himself in this situation. He did, okay? He put himself in this situation by having over 20 masseuses, air quotes. He put himself in this situation. Whether he did anything actually wrong or not, doesn't matter. You don't put yourself in a situation like this. We're not having this discussion. So the Browns decided to go all in. You know, they give up 6 draft picks, 3 ones over the next 3 years, one this year and one in 23 and one in 24. They're going to also give up a 4th rounder this year, a 3rd rounder next year, and another 4th rounder in 2024. So they've given up an historic haul, did the Cleveland Browns, to the Houston Texans to get Deshaun Watson. They also do the Browns get a 6th round pick in 2024, or maybe it's a 5th rounder at this point. I think it's a 6th. Right? I think it was a 5th initially. Now it's a 6th, right? So at this point, the Browns have gone all in on, Deshaun Watson. They want to win, and this is going to give them the best chance to do that. I just look at how all these teams bent over backwards for Deshaun Watson. He literally, had all of these teams like eating out of the palm of his hand, as if he were a free agent. Generally when a guy is you're trading for him, rarely do you see a guy go on visits and trips. I mean, like he literally was being wooed like he was a free agent, but the man was under contract to the Houston Texans. It's a situation we've never seen before. And the Browns made a mess of this situation to the point where Baker Mayfield was like, I'm out. Now, we talked about the whole letter that he penned and him putting his middle name, his entire government at the bottom of that letter, which meant he was done. He was out. There's no returning to Cleveland after I write an entire letter. And at the end of that letter, I sign it with my entire government name. All right. Baker Madison Mayfield or whatever the hell his middle name is. Okay. Once I do that, shit's over with. Okay. I'm not coming back. So we knew that train had left the station and it wasn't coming back. And so the Browns had to do something because Baker wasn't playing for him anymore. And apparently the Browns said, all right, cool. You're not coming back. Shit. You know how you do when somebody scorns you. I ain't want your ass anyway. So the Browns are like, fine, we ain't want your ass anyway. And so they jump back into the Deshaun Watson fray and they say, well, look, whatever it takes, we'll fully guarantee the contract. We'll give you 5 years, $230 million. We'll make sure that this thing is suspension proof. Whatever you need, we got you, bro. Come to Cleveland. I don't know if anybody else was offering up the package with that contract because Watson was in full control. He had to okay everything, contract, terms of the deal, whatever. And the Texans was like, look, as long as we get the picks, we don't really give a shit what happens on Deshaun's end. We just want the picks. They got their picks. Watson got his contract. It's a win for everyone. But when I look at the situation and how it all unfolded, I'm like, wow. There's so many dominoes. We talked about the dominoes falling. Let's do that real quick. So Browns jump back in the fray, snatch Deshaun Watson away from the Atlanta Falcons. That deal was as close to done as you can get without getting done. So they reach back in, snatch him away from Atlanta, which then sends a ripple effect. The Falcons were going to trade Matt Ryan regardless, whether they got Watson or not, because Matt Ryan felt disrespected, as he should have, because that wasn't the way to go about it, right? Anyway, he knew his time was up. He wanted to go somewhere where he still was going to be valued. Indianapolis is the perfect spot for him, right? So he's now an Indianapolis Colt. But we knew the dominoes were going to fall either way. If he goes to Atlanta, Matt Ryan's going to be traded, and then the Browns have to figure out what the hell they're going to do because now Baker Mayfield no longer wants to play for them. And so you got to figure out what the hell is going to happen now. So it goes in the reverse direction. He goes to Cleveland. They're now shopping Baker Mayfield. The Colts say, hey, we're still out here without a damn quarterback in this game of musical chairs. They reach in, they grab Matt Ryan. So the Falcons are now sitting there like, shit, what do we do now? We just traded Matt. We don't have a quarterback. They quickly go grab Marcus Mariota off the free agent market, pencil him in as their starter, but they're going to draft a guy. You got to believe in this year's draft. We'll see. Maybe they don't. I think they have to. And if they don't, you better have a damn good backup, or else if I'm a Falcons fan, there's no reason to watch, because by week 3, 4, 5, or 6, somewhere in there, Marcus Mariota is going to have a hamstring injury, much like Tyrod Taylor did. What did Tyrod Taylor do? Week 3, he had a hamstring injury against Cleveland and didn't come back for like 2 months. And at least the Texans had a young quarterback to put in. It made games watchable. That's why they should have taken a quarterback last year, right? So that they would have had a guy in place, which is why I think they're going to take one this year, because when Marcus Mariota gets injured, it'd be nice to put Malik Willis in the game, or it'd be nice for the fan base to have a reason to tune in and watch to see what the hell Matt Corral or what the hell Kenny Pickett's going to do, and what do they have at the quarterback position. It'd be really nice to be able to see that if you're a Falcons fan. So to me, they're going to draft a quarterback, right? So the Falcons say, all right, we're not trading for Jimmy Garoppolo. Like, that's the stupidest thing ever. Not doing that. So we'll go grab Marcus Mariota. That solves our quarterback situation for now. All right. The Saints said, look, we already knew there was a high probability that we weren't getting Deshaun Watson. So we already had our contingency plan sitting right next to us in Jameis Winston, right? Like, if this doesn't go well, Jameis is right here. He ain't going nowhere. We already know what we're going to do if Deshaun Watson doesn't choose us. So they were already covered. No matter what happened, they had their contingency plan in place already. The Saints said, look, we're not dumb. We already got Jameis on speed dial. We told that brother, don't sign nowhere else. Okay. This is comfortable for you. You've been here. You know the system. You don't want to go nowhere else. So just sit tight. Let's see what happens with this situation. And if it doesn't work out where Watson comes here, you know this is home. All right. Well, it didn't work out. They picked up the phone. They called Jameis up. He gets his 2-year deal. He's back in New Orleans. All is right with the world over there. So another domino falls because of Deshaun Watson. So now Baker Mayfield's dangling out there, okay? And Jimmy Garoppolo's still dangling out there, okay? Browns have a quarterback. Falcons have a quarterback. Colts have a quarterback. And now the Seahawks are saying, hey, we just got Drew Lock. What are we going to do? So I think right now, really, there's 2 chairs. Or there's 1 chair, 2 quarterbacks walking around that chair. When the music stops, who's going to end up in that seat? If I'm Seattle, I don't want to bring Jimmy G back to the NFC West. I'm going to get Baker Mayfield. Now, here's the caveat. The Browns are like, hey, we want a first-round pick. You want a what? And I get it from the Browns angle. Hey, we spent the number 1 overall pick on this dude. Just 2 years ago, this man had us in the divisional round and had us who was it? Rashard Higgins, dive at the pylon away from us moving on to the AFC Championship game. If Higgins doesn't do that and fumble the football, the Browns might be moving on to the AFC Championship game. So they're saying, look, just 2 years ago, the number 1 overall pick from the 2018 NFL draft almost took us all the way to the championship game. We want our 1 back. And everybody else is looking like, you want what? Hey, you better bring that damn price down, man. So eventually, I think something gets done there. Browns are playing hardball right now. They don't hold the leverage here, though. Because if I'm Seattle, I'm like, I'll just roll with Drew Lock. I mean, we ain't winning shit regardless. Like, you ain't hurting me. My division is already rough, tough, and rugged, We think the 49ers are going to be good with Trey Lance. We know the Cardinals are going to bounce back with Kyler Murray. He ain't going nowhere. And the Rams are the Super Bowl defending champions. Like, and I misspoke earlier. I totally left out the Cardinals, the Rams, and the 49ers. That's real disrespectful of me. The NFC is not like just this hopeless, desolate conference, but it everybody migrated to the AFC. Let's not make any mistake about that. The AFC is loaded. The NFC is not. Nobody's afraid of the Trey Lance-led San Francisco 49ers. Yeah, what the Cardinals did last year was great. Do it again. Run it back. The Browns tried to run it back. They missed the playoffs. Run it back. Let me see you do it again. All right. And the Rams, that's a really good team. And adding Allen Robinson helps them tremendously. That's another trade we'll talk about today. They traded wide receiver Robert Woods to the Tennessee Titans. Again, if you're not paying attention, man, some shit will just slip right under the radar on you because it's just so much going on. But that's a good football team. But again, no one, I mean, they literally were a Jaquiski Tart dropped interception away from being eliminated by the 49ers and losing to them for a 7th straight time. So, like, this conference is wide open. I don't give a shit who you are. You can be beaten. So, I look around at the NFC, and it's wide open to me. And so, if you're Seattle, to me, you're not going to win a Super Bowl with Baker Mayfield, right? You'd like the opportunity to do that, but at the right cost. I'm not giving you a first-round pick. You know, Seattle's like, look, I just literally got back in the first-round game. Literally. I was out of the first-round game for the Jamal Adams chicanery I pulled a couple of years ago. I just got back in the first-round game by trading Russell Wilson, and you want me to give you my first-round pick for Baker Mayfield? Man, you got the game all twisted up. You better get the hell out of my face. Put some cold-ass water on your face. Wash your face and get your damn mind right. So the Browns may be stuck. And to me, this is where people always mess this whole situation up, is when you are a team and you have a player that you want to deal, and your two options are release or deal, you always want to deal. Okay? You always want to get something. The only time a player gets released is when there's no compensation out there. Like, if you're slated to get nothing, and the best you may get, and you're not guaranteed a compensatory pick, you're not guaranteed that. The only way you get that compensatory pick is if the guys that you allow to leave in free agency, their deals total more than the guys' deals that you sign in free agency. So if you are very active in free agency and you allow guys to leave, there's no guarantee you're getting a compensatory pick. And even if you do, it may not be a 3rd or a 4th. It may be a 5th round compensatory pick, or 6th. So you're not guaranteed that 3rd rounder. But in the case of Seattle, they haven't done much of anything in free agency. So if they were to, allow a guy to leave and that guy sign somewhere else, or excuse me, in the case of the Browns, if they were to allow Baker to leave, and they're not cutting Baker Mayfield, they have no reason to. He's still on that rookie deal now. Do they want to pay him the money that he's going to make in that 5th-year option? Probably not. I don't know how much they're on the hook for, how much of that is guaranteed money, how much is that dead cap, whatever the case may be. But they want to move him, and he's disgruntled. You don't want this guy on your roster, right? So they're going to move him or they're going to cut him. Something's going to be done. They want to get compensation for him. They're not going to just cut him and a 2nd-round pick was on the table and they're like, nope, we want a 1st, so we're just going to cut him. No, you make them sweat it out. What they're trying to do is essentially what the Jets did with Sam Darnold last year. They're trying to, remember, we kept hearing the Jets want a 1st-round pick. And everybody's like, man, you better get the hell out of my face. You get no damn 1st-round pick for Sam Darnold. All right. We were just trying to, we'll pull your leg. We're just trying to see if anybody would bite. Nobody's going to bite that shit. All right. Tell you what, we'll take these, 2 3s and we'll call it a day, right? And whatever Carolina gave up for Sam Darnold last year. Something like that. It was like 2 3s, a 3 and a 4, 3 and a 2, something like that. I think it was 2 3s though. Anyway, so nobody's going to leave draft picks on the table, okay? You just got to be able to play hardball. When you're desperate, you don't wait. Because of your desperation, you pull the trigger immediately and you give that team what they want. The Browns are hoping someone's desperate, like a Seattle, for instance. Like, and now that river's starting to dry up, and Seattle's looking around and they're saying, hey, we ain't got no competition here. We can even pull the Jimmy Garoppolo card if we want. Hey, look, man, if y'all don't want to take this 3rd-round pick for Baker, I just signed Jimmy Garoppolo. I'll trade for Jimmy Garoppolo. The 49ers will take a 3 for him. I just take Jimmy Garoppolo. Like, what you trying to do? Either let me slide you this tray right here, man, and let me get Baker up off your hands because you don't want him, or I'm going to go with Jimmy Garoppolo. And what are the Browns going to do? They go, well, we'll just hold on to Baker. Okay, go right ahead. You go right ahead. Pay Baker Mayfield to be the most expensive backup in the league. Knock yourself out. And all the while, him being disgruntled and pissed off and making it uncomfortable in that locker room. They're not going to do that. So they're not getting a first-round pick for him, if you ask me. I don't think there are many other teams other than Seattle left, because when we first looked at this, now there was talk of the Titans at one point looking to upgrade from Ryan Tannehill. At this point, I don't see them doing that. If they want to do that, they needed to be way more aggressive earlier on when there were a lot of quarterbacks out there to be had. With the guys that are left, I don't think, you're getting a significant upgrade over Ryan Tannehill necessarily. So I don't think they're going to do anything. So really, it's just the Seahawks at this point that are out there looking around. Could the Steelers be interested? Sure, but they got Mitchell Trubisky and they're going to draft a quarterback. They look like they're – and one thing about the Steelers, they don't give a damn who knows. They're drooling over Malik Willis right now. Drooling over that dude. They're gonna if they got to go up to get him, they will. They want to stand pat. Remember, their GM, Kevin Colbert, is retiring. He wants to do the Ozzie Newsome thing. Remember, Ozzie Newsome was like, yo, peace, I'm out. But before I go, I'm going to leave this parting gift for you. And get some Lamar Jackson on the way out. Kevin Colbert's like, this is my legacy on the way out. I'm going to leave you this parting gift. And this quarterback that I leave you is going to be your quarterback for the next 15 years. And then you tell me thank you on the way out. I think that guy they want to get is Malik Willis. So we'll see. The Steelers have never been, bashful about guys that they were going to draft. A guy that looks like a Steeler usually ends up a Steeler. Malik Willis looks like a Steeler to me. And Mitchell Trubisky's game to me kind of mirrors that of a Malik Willis, very similar in their skill set. So it makes a ton of sense to me. We'll see what they decide to do. Right now, the Steelers already have 3 quarterbacks on the roster. It is nothing for them to get rid of Mason Rudolph, because they just brought back Dwayne Haskins. I mean, they could get rid of his ass too. I mean, I think they tendered him. Like, I don't see anybody coming after him. So right now they got 3 quarterbacks on the roster. I think it's going to be 4 after the draft, and then somebody's going to get their walking papers. But we'll see what happens. Anyway, I said all of that to say this. This Deshaun Watson thing was insane because of how many ripple effects it sent through the NFL and how many teams were kind of just waiting to see what happened. The Saints were waiting to see if they were going to get him. If they didn't, Jameis Winston. The Colts were waiting to see whoever got him was going to then have to trade a quarterback, whether it was Cleveland or it was Atlanta. Well, it didn't matter because Atlanta didn't get him, but they pissed off Matt Ryan and he wanted out. So the Colts, they really wanted Matt Ryan. They really were waiting to see if, this whole thing was going to shake out and Matt Ryan was going to come available, because I think that's the guy that they were most comfortable with. Baker Mayfield, similar to Carson Wentz, is a unknown commodity. Like, you don't really know what you're going to get. He's young. There's upside, so you're excited about that, but you don't really know exactly what you're going to get in terms of stability. Can I count on this guy to win the games that he's supposed to and then win 1 or 2 that he has no business winning? They feel confident that Matt Ryan can do that. And he's done that pretty much for the, life of his career. So they feel really good. It's similar to what they did 2 years ago when they went out and got Phillip Rivers. You know what you're trading for. You know what commodity you're getting, even though that guy may be past his prime. You know what you're getting. You're going to win 10, 11 games if you get the quality of defense and running game that you were able to provide Carson Wentz last year. You're going to win more than the 9 games that you won last year, or 8, or whatever you ultimately won. You're going to win more than that with Matt Ryan at quarterback, because he's going to manage the game better. So there's a lot going on here. All right. So the Colts get their guy. The Falcons didn't have to react quickly. They get Marcus Mariota. But there's still a couple of guys out there like, what about me? Jimmy Garoppolo. That shoulder surgery couldn't have come at a worse time. He would have probably already been traded for it if the shoulder surgery doesn't happen. He stinks, though. Nobody truly wants Jimmy Garoppolo. Like, seriously. And the 49ers are going to have to do something. They're probably either going to release him or they're going to find someone that'll be like, because at first the 49ers were playing hardball. They were like, yeah, we looking for like a 2 for him, And everybody's like, ooh, that's a little bit high, man. And the 49ers like, well, make me an offer. We can talk. That shit's coming down. I told you I wouldn't give up a day 1 or 2 pick for Jimmy Garoppolo. The conversation starts at a 4th round pick for me. That's probably where this thing is trending for the 49ers. Now they're like, hey, come on. All right, look, man. All right, my arms are twisted. You got me. All right, 4th round pick. Come on. They may have to settle for something even less than that. Now, clearly the 49ers can say, look, we'll just release him, let him sign a nice deal with somebody, and we'll get the compensatory pick because they haven't done much of anything in free agency this year. So they may get a 3rd round comp pick back in return, depending on how big the deal is that he signs. I don't know what they're going to do, but for the 49ers, the conversation has to start and end at a 3 because in their minds, we'll get that 3 back in a compensatory fashion, down the road in 2023. So why go about it this way and look for the instant gratification of a 4th round pick when we can get a 3rd next year? So I think it starts and ends with a 3rd for Jimmy Garoppolo. And if I'm Seattle and I'm interested in any of these any of these 2 quarterbacks, that's pretty much where I'm at. I'm in that 3rd round neighborhood. Like, okay, look, you either release Jimmy G and get a 3rd round compensatory, or you take my 3rd round of this year. And for the Browns, if you're the Seahawks, I'm going at them with the same thing. I got a 3rd on the table for Jimmy Garoppolo right now. Okay. You could get this 3rd or you could get nothing. It's your choice. But you're not going to hold on to Baker. And you're not going to hold me for a 1st or a 2nd. So which is it going to be? They got to make a decision. So it'll be interesting. And we'll see what happens with all of this. But man, oh man. Wow. So many things have transpired. The NFL this is fun. I'm not gonna lie, this is fun. It's at an all-time high in terms of the craziness, the zaniest, the wackiest, wackiness is just at an all-time high. We've never seen anything like this in an NFL offseason before. And like I said, it's not just on the field. The guys calling the game aren't even in their same locales anymore. I mean, Joe Buck and Troy Aikman picked their whole broadcast up and moved to ESPN. It's the best team that ESPN has had doing Monday Night Football since Tirico and Gruden. So now Monday Night Football has a voice again. And I know some of you don't love Troy Aikman and Joe Buck. That's fine. I love those guys. So I got no problems with them going to ESPN and giving that program a voice. Then you get Amazon that's jumping into the fray this year on Thursday nights, and Al Michaels and Kirk Herbstreit will be doing those games. So that's a different move there. And then now you got Mike Tirico, who waited patiently for his opportunity, sliding into that Sunday night booth with Chris Collinsworth. I love Mike Tirico, and I'm not a big Chris Collinsworth fan, but just getting Mike Tirico back, I'll take whoever they got him paired with this, which is Chris Collinsworth. I'll take Collinsworth because I get Mike Tirico back calling games full time, and he's the best in the business. So it's musical chairs everywhere, and we're still not done. And maybe Seattle just says, hey, we traded for Drew Lock for a reason, man. Like we don't want neither one of these dudes. We'll take Drew Lock. We'll take our chances. And if he stinks, we'll draft the guy next year. That could be their move as well. So anyway, let's transition to our next segment, social media maneuvers. I'm a midday marauder. You know what it is. If you're out there, you want your comment to be read, the best way to go about it is to use the hashtag LouieTLive to have your comment read on the air. You want to jump straight to the front of the line. I imagine that there are a ton of comments out there. So we will skim through. I won't, just because you're in order, I won't just read your comment. Okay. If it's pertinent and it adds to the conversation that we're having, we'll talk about it. If not, well, I'm going to just gloss right over it, go to the next comment. If you want your comment to be guaranteed to be read and jump to the front of the line, the best way to do that is to super chat. So let's get to our first comment from Kyle. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, Kyle, writes, not a fan of Baker or any NFL player expressed wanting a trade going so public. Kills all the leverage previous team has negotiating. Unprofessional. For Baker, he doesn't care anything about that. He doesn't care about the unprofessional nature of him, wanting a trade. He wants out. And you got to understand that these players are human beings, and a lot of them are young. Think about yours, and some of you are their age. So, everyone's not in the same mental state. Everyone's not mature. Remember, one of the things we heard about the Browns is that they wanted an adult at the quarterback position, that Baker he wasn't grown up enough. Some of the ways he handled things was childish like. He would throw temper tantrums about certain things when he didn't get his way. And you heard some of that in some of the pressers. Remember, I talked about how Baker was out of control 3 off seasons ago when they hired the clown. What was his name? Freddie Kitchens. When they promoted him from offensive coordinator to head coach. And I'm like, wait. What did you guys just do? Like, Freddie Kitchens is a clown. And Baker Mayfield had way too much power that offseason. And he was talking out of the side of his neck. Remember, he disrespected Duke Johnson, and the other players in the locker room was like, yo, Bake, watch your mouth. You starting to overstep your boundaries. I don't give a shit if you the starting quarterback. Watch your mouth, man. You just got here. So we can see that Baker has some growing up to do. But let's get one thing straight. These players don't give 2 shits about looking unprofessional. If they want out, they want out. Deshaun Watson didn't care about looking unprofessional. He wanted out, and he got out. It wasn't ideal, but he got out. And these players, when they want out, and I told you, we saw a shift in this about 2 years ago. With Le'Veon, I think it started with Le'Veon Bell when he sat out, when the Steelers franchise tagged him, and he sat out that entire year. You started to see players wrestling away control from these organizations. Like, look, I just won't play then. Like, you're not scaring me. You're not hurting me. I just won't play. And if you've got that kind of leverage, you can do that. For Le'Veon Bell, it was easier for him to do that because he wasn't under contract. It was a franchise tag that he had not signed, so he didn't run the risk of being fined. He can do whatever he wanted to do. Baker is in a different spot because if no one trades for him and the Browns hold on to him, he can't hold out. He ain't built like that. And so Deshaun was in a different spot because the text was like, look, I don't want the smoke. You don't want the smoke. We don't want to turn this thing ugly because we got to trade you. We don't want this thing to turn ugly. We got to keep your value where it is. It's already down a bit because of this whole sexual assault thing. So we don't even want any more drama. We're not even trying to bring any more attention to this. And Deshaun knew what he was doing. He's like, I got all the leverage here because y'all got to trade me. Y'all not going to just keep sitting here paying me. And you don't want to bring any more attention to this situation because really you're just trying to offload me at this point. So that's not where the Browns are with Baker, But at the end of the day, teams know that they're desperate to trade him. But at the same time, you got to figure out what's best for you. And either you're going to release him or you're going to trade him. And that's a tough spot to be in, as you mentioned, because teams can hold that over your head. What you going to do? You going to release him? I can wait. Because there's really not many other teams out there that need quarterbacks. So I can wait. Or you're going to just trade him to me and take this 3rd round pick. It's a tough spot to be in. But, hey, you should have thought about that when you decided to pursue Deshaun Watson and you didn't tell Baker about it. He probably would have been pissed off either way. But there's a way to go about it. There's a way to make sure that the player is fully aware of the situation. So he's not blindsided. They didn't do that. So I don't feel bad for any of the parties involved. None of them. Don't feel bad for Baker because the Browns clearly upgraded at the position. It's funny because so many people said, why would Deshaun want to go to the AFC when he was dangling out there? It's already loaded. I've already told you that's called athletic arrogance. You look at your situation, you look at the team you're going to, and you say, you add me to a team with, and then you start filling in the blanks. Myles Garrett and Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt and David Njoku and Amari Cooper And then you just keep filling in all of the blanks. And this offensive line, you can really go all the way across their O-line because it's lit and loaded and stacked. And you say, you add me to the mix, this is a Super Bowl contending team. So it's amazing how many people just thought, oh, why would Deshaun want to go over there? Why would Russell want to go to the AFC? There's just so many quarterbacks already there. They don't give a shit about that. They're not thinking about anybody else. They're thinking about themselves and the situation that they're going to and how they can enhance that situation. So Baker's not thinking about the Browns, nor should he be. He's thinking about himself. He wants out, and he doesn't care how it comes about. He just wants out, and he wants everybody to know he wants out, including the Browns organization. Austin, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy Austin writes, Baker is like a beautiful woman with no behind. No ass at all. I mean, it's crazy because Baker Mayfield is so intriguing. Like, if you're a Washington fan, and I've been asked this before, would you have preferred Carson Wentz or Baker Mayfield? And my response was, if I could get a better deal, I probably would have taken Baker Mayfield. Now, a healthy Baker Mayfield, because he wasn't healthy last year. Everybody likes to talk about last year. Baker wasn't healthy last year. To me, I look at Baker's first year in the league where he was properly coached and his head wasn't big and he was really good. I look at his second year, head got big, and then you put a guy that couldn't control him, who didn't know if he was coming or going, didn't know if his pants were on backwards or what, in Freddie Kitchens, and it was a shit show. You restore order, you get a professional head coach in there and an adult in the building, and Kevin Stefanski. Baker looks like $1 million again, and they almost make it to the AFC Championship. Then you get last year, Baker's all kinds of banged up, not the same guy, and the numbers go back down. And so the question is, what Baker are you getting? You have to assume healthy Baker, proper coaching staff, talent around him. You're getting good Baker. But that's a hard assumption to make if you haven't seen it consistently, which you haven't with Baker. So I get those that don't love Baker Mayfield. But Carson Wentz, to me, is an enigma because we've seen Carson Wentz. We've seen the numbers. And everyone wants to throw out the numbers all the time. 27/7. He was great last year. And all of that's fine. Okay. But you weren't saying he was great when the Colts started off the season 0-4. Then all of a sudden they got hot. They won like 7 out of 8. They were playing extraordinary ball. The run game was at an all-time high. The defense was playing excellent football. He was doing a good job of managing the game, right? And they won a bunch of games. But then at the end, and you know, a lot of people say, hey, don't forget about COVID. He got COVID and he was not the same. It's the same shit that happened to Cam Newton. Cam Newton was playing out of his mind to start the season. He got COVID. He was never the same. I'll grant you that. I will grant you that. But they needed him in those final 2 games. He did not play well, and they shipped him out. So with Carson Wentz, I think there's still a conversation around how good could he be. I think the ceiling for Carson Wentz is greater than that of Baker Mayfield. And that's, if you're a Washington fan, that's what you're banking on. That's what you're going to hang your hat on, is that, look, we saw the best of Carson Wentz. We haven't seen the best of Baker, but even Baker Mayfield has something Carson Wentz doesn't have. A playoff victory, okay? Carson Wentz has never won a playoff game, all right? Baker Mayfield took his team, granted, there were no fans in the stands. He took his team to Pittsburgh and won a shootout with the Pittsburgh Steelers, all right? Outlasted the Steelers, if you will. Now, a lot of that was the Steelers' undoing, but that's not his problem. He almost went to Kansas City and outdueled Patrick Mahomes, okay? So he has shown the ability to go on the road in the postseason and try to help his team win ball games. And Baker was really good in that game. He was really good in that game. And again, if not for Rashard Higgins' unnecessary dive for the pylon that resulted in a fumble, the Browns probably win that game. So he's got something that Carson Wentz doesn't, and that's a playoff victory under his belt. But I still think the ceiling for Wentz is higher. But again, I probably would have just gone with Baker. He's younger. You get to find out right away. You know, there is no strings attached to a Baker Mayfield trade. Either he's good, he's on a rookie deal, or you move on. Like, it's not going to cost you a lot of money. It's not going to cost you, a ton of draft capital. Now the Browns are clearly were asking for one, and I don't know who the hell they think they're going to get that from. But if the deal was reasonable, I would have taken my chances with Baker Mayfield. But I'm torn with Wentz, and I've already talked about all the reasons why I'm torn with Wentz. And so Baker is interesting, and you're right. He looks good up front. There's not a lot in the back, but don't let that be the reason that you don't scoop him up. I know plenty of flat ass women, okay, women with nothing back there, no junk in the trunk, that are great women and can satisfy you and be your best friend and do everything. I mean, yeah, the dress goes right straight down, but it's okay. It's okay. Don't let that be the reason you miss out on a good woman. Translation, don't let that be the reason you don't go out and get Baker Mayfield. Okay? So, I digress. Got another super chat. This one is from Dejan Bell. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy Dejan writes, Lou, it feels like as if Sean Taylor is looking down on us vividly. The way things are stacking now, Kyle Hamilton can slip into our grasp. Hashtag command mode. Once again, let me reassure you that Kyle Hamilton is not the second coming of Sean Taylor. He is not, I repeat, not the second coming. Now, he has some Sean Taylor-like qualities, but there will never be another Meast, as he was once affectionately called, half man, half beast. Kyle Hamilton can come down and make tackles. He's not a hitter. He can hit, but again, he's not Sean Taylor. Okay, he's not separating man from ball like Taylor was. And granted, Taylor played in a totally different era in football. I'd like to think he could have adjusted, but his range, his ability to go attack the football, Kyle Hamilton has that. But I just think all around, Sean Taylor's a better athlete, period. But to your point, there is a chance for him to slip to Washington, in this draft. But, we'll see. I don't even know if Washington is interested. That's the thing is I just want to see, and this is always what you want, but it's not going to turn out this way. But I just want to see where Washington's head is at. I guarantee you Carolina's taking Kenny Pickett at 7 if no one jumps in front of them, okay? Or 6 or wherever the hell they're drafting. They're going to take Kenny Pickett. So quarterback will be selected by the time Washington hits the board at 11. But I think there's a chance that only one quarterback's gone by then, just one. And I'd love it if the Steelers say, hey, Washington, we want Malik Willis. Let me get 11 so we can get him. I don't know if there's anybody directly behind us that's interested in drafting a young quarterback. I doubt that anybody needs to trade up. This is not a draft where you need to trade up for a QB unless there's one in particular that you're after. And it's the first one. Like, the only way you trade up for a quarterback is if you need to get in front of Carolina and you want Kenny Pickett. Outside of that, there's no reason for you to trade up in this draft. Malik Willis will fall into your lap, just like Matt Corral, more likely than that, will fall into your lap, just like Sam Howell will be available in the second round, and Desmond Ridder and so forth and so forth. Carson Strong, those guys will be around. Like, you don't have to trade up unless it's in the second round. So, to me, I'd love to see a scenario where all the quarterbacks are still there, all the receivers are still there, and Kyle Hamilton hasn't been selected, and just see what Washington does at 11. That's asking a lot, I know, but it's doable. It was a lot more doable before David Ojabo tore his ACL. We're going to talk about that in garbage time to wrap up the show, because there was a lot made of that situation and how it was handled. And I got some ideas on that. So we'll talk about that at the end of the show. But it was a lot more feasible when he was still healthy, because you could have easily seen him and Walker from Georgia. Obviously, the top 2 edge rushers, Aiden Hutchinson and Thibodeau, all going in the top 10. That would have been 4 rushers going in the top 10. Not to mention Johnson from FSU could easily find his way in the top 10 as well. So you could have easily saw 4 rushers, 3 offensive tackles, 2 corners, fill up the top 10, you know what I'm saying? But, and then throw another position in there. I think quarterback's going to be there when it's all said and done. Pickett's going to go. And then you could easily see 3 tackles, 4 edge rushers, and 2 corners fill up the rest of the top 10. And then Kyle Hamilton is sitting there for you at 11. Again, highly unlikely that it goes down that way, but we'll see. I don't think Washington's really in the market for a safety at 11. I think they're more inclined to take a receiver or a linebacker at 11 before they took a safety. But again, at 11, it should be BOA. Okay, BOA, BOA, BOA. I'm going to be screaming it till my face turns blue because that's where we are in our process. BOA, BOA, BOA. So if that's Kyle Hamilton, take him. If that's a linebacker, if it's Nakobe Dean, take him. If that's a wide receiver and it's Drake London or it's, one of the Ohio State wide receivers, take him. Garrett Wilson, take him. Whatever it is, BOA, BOA. If it's trade back, do it. All right, got another super chat. This one from Dejan Bell. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. My guy Dejan, thank you for doubling up. Writes, wasn't comparing the two. I just miss Sean Taylor. That's all. And I get that. I mean, we all miss him. And who knows what his career would have turned into. We all like to think that it would have turned into a Hall of Fame career because that's where it was trending. But at this point, we've been chasing a ghost. I'm no longer chasing that ghost. I stopped chasing that ghost about 5 years ago. I'm no longer chasing the ghost. I just let it be whatever it is. I don't even bring him up in those conversations anymore because you can't replace a guy like that, and I'm no longer chasing that ghost, and neither should you. At this point, it'd be nice to get our hands on a guy like Kyle Hamilton because I do think he's a game changer at the safety position. But we also need a linebacker more so than anything else. And I don't know how they're going to go about that, how aggressive they're going to be. But that's imperative, if you ask me. Linebacker is over any other position. That includes wide receiver. Got to find a linebacker. Because to me, I had quarterback at the top of the list and then linebacker. Getting an answer at middle linebacker was the second biggest need for the offseason. They haven't done that yet. So to me, at 11, if there's a linebacker there that you identify as that guy, whether it's Devin Lloyd or Nakobe Dean, do it. And now, I like some second-round guys, but you got to act fast. And at 47, I don't know if they'll be around. That's the dilemma you find yourself in. I don't know if they would have even been there at 42. I don't want to make it seem like because we traded with the Colts and swapped picks that now all of a sudden we can't get one of these dudes. But 5 picks, 5 spaces of draft real estate in the case of trying to get a guy in the second round could be the difference between you getting him and not getting him. So we'll see what happens. Anyway, let's get to the comment section. And I got a comment here from Dinero Rick, who writes, I don't agree with your Twitter take on overpayment. 4 more million and 1 more pick for next season for 8 years younger is a steal. And Matt Ryan was just Taylor Heineke with more yards in 2021. So for those of you unaware of what he's referring to, I was on Twitter and I follow Ari, who used to be my sports update on Twitter. He blew up, got a job with NBC, now has a podcast, works with Adam Schefter and, all of these dudes now. So he's big time, but he's still putting out good content on Twitter, and he's a great follow. And one of the things Ari tweeted out was that, whether Carson Wentz turns out to be the guy at the quarterback position for Washington, make no mistake, they overpaid for him. To which I agreed, and I retweeted that with a comment that essentially said, this is what I've been trying to tell everyone. When you go out here screaming about how desperate you are, you get taken advantage of, essentially is what I was saying. Now, you had a whole bunch of people, several, not a whole bunch of people. I don't want to dramatize this. It's not like 100 people came at me. It was like 1 or 2 people that tried to justify the trade. And they kept missing the point. And it's hard for me to talk to people who don't get it, who don't understand what the argument actually is. So this is what happens when I was trying to go to law school, when I first started trying to take the courses to prepare me for the LSAT to get into law school, there were so many logical things that I had to do to prepare myself. And it got you to think at a different level. And sometimes people are incapable of thinking at things from a specific spectrum. They see it from their point of view and they don't actually understand the actual argument that's being had. The argument isn't that Carson Wentz isn't the best option available. That's not what the conversation is about. Okay. I'm not here to argue with you over him being better than Matt Ryan or Baker Mayfield or Marcus Mariota or any of these guys that might have been available. That's not the argument. The argument is that Washington overpaid, and you can't deny that. Okay, you can try to justify it any way you want. The Colts just gave up a 3rd-round pick for Matt Ryan. Here's what happens. When I'm eating the salary of the player that I'm trading for, you don't get to fleece me and get 2 picks. You get 1. You see what happened in the Amari Cooper trade? You had all these people, oh my God, how could the Cowboys trade Amari Cooper for such little draft capital? How could they? What was it, a 4 and a 6? How could they do this? You know why? Because they had to eat Amari Cooper's contract. And when you're eating a player's contract, you don't get to rape me. You don't get to call the shots. If I'm doing you a favor, then you got to kick that back on the end in compensation in terms of draft capital. Washington allowed the Colts to get over because they were desperate. My point on Twitter that I was trying to make is that you don't pay retail or overpay for something that you don't have to overpay for just because you got it. I'll give you a great example. I collect cards, right? And I have a whole nother channel for that. All right. And I just recently switched up and rebranded that channel. So if you're looking for it, it's now called Big Card Hunter. Okay. I have a video explaining that on my other channel down the road. But to go back, when one of the ways you can acquire cards is you go directly to Panini, who is the biggest retailer of cards right now in the business. Now, they're not going to be that for long. Fanatics has come along and will take over essentially all of their real estate here in a bit. But for the time being, Panini owns all the license to NFL and the NBA. So they're the major players in the game. So you go through their website, right? Panini Direct is what they call it. And they do what is called a Dutch auction. And what a Dutch auction is that they set the price point at the very beginning high. Okay, nobody's paying this price and they know it, but they're setting it high because just like in negotiations, you don't go out and set your negotiation, the starting point at where you ultimately want to go. If you're the team that is trying to sign a player back and then you've got the agent on the other side, the agent is going to tell you, let's say the agent and his client want $100 million over 5 years, $20 million per year. You set it up at 120 if you're the agent. Yeah, I want my client, look, and then you lay out all the things. You say, my client wants 5 for 120. And the team's like, what? And their first offer is 5 for 180. You know, you're like, what? 5 for 120? We were thinking more along the lines of 5 for 180. I mean, 5 for 80. And so ultimately, they want 100. And the team is willing to go to 100. If you take 80, they go, of course, they're going to do the deal for 80, right? But they want to get somewhere in that 90 to 100 range. They've got enough they've allotted. I had a buddy of mine work as a claims agent. And as a claims agent, you're assigned a certain amount of money to get the deal done. Okay, so let's say that somebody was in a terrible accident and he worked at Norfolk Southern. And so let's say a car came across the median or the train tracks as a train was coming and it got T-boned and the person was in a terrible accident and the gate malfunctioned. It didn't come down. The person didn't know that the train was coming because the gate wasn't down and he got T-boned. And so the railroad is responsible. Cars gets totaled, ton of hospital bills. And so they go to the claims agent and have the claims agent go to that person and say, hey, here you go. We're going to give you $150,000 to go get a deal done, to settle with this guy so we don't have to go to court. All right. Now, you got up to $150,000 to settle. They don't want you to spend $150,000. Okay. If you can get that guy who's desperate over here, who's never seen real money in his life, to agree to take $67,000, then that's what you do. Okay. You don't go in there and say, hey, I got $50,000 here. Man, we're so sorry for everything that happened. You go in there and you try to lowball that guy, and it's that guy's job or his lawyer's job to step in and say, that's not nearly enough for what my client's been through. So I said all of that to tell you this. When you go to that Dutch auction, they started off at $1,000. Let's say the box is $1,000. You're not paying $1,000 for that box in your mind. And you got to go into these auctions with a number, okay, that makes sense for you and your budget. So you might go into that auction thinking, if this box, I really want this box badly, but you can't let them see how desperate you are because they'll take advantage of you. That's in life. That's just not in football. That's in life. I just gave you a scenario where if you're desperate, the railroad's going to take advantage of you. So you go in there and you say, if this box gets to $475, I'm pulling the trigger. And every 5 minutes, the price comes down in some incremental amount. So let's say $75. Every 5 minutes, that price of that box that started at $1,000 comes down $75. So you go from $1,000 to $925. And then in 5 more minutes, it goes from $925 to $850. And then 5 more minutes and so forth and so forth. So you sit there and you just wait and you just wait. Now, there's limited supply, right? So if you wait too long and other people value it at a much higher rate, and they're willing to pay $7 when it gets down to $725, and when it gets down to $775, they're willing to pay that. They pull the trigger and you wait, you might miss out, right? But that's the risk you take. But you're not going to overpay for something, right? So you wait, and then it gets into your wheelhouse, and maybe you start getting a little antsy as it gets right around $525 or $550. You get antsy, and you're like, man, it might be gone if I keep waiting. Maybe you pull the trigger at $550, but you really want it to get to $475. I said all of that to say this: just because you can afford something doesn't mean you need to pay full price. If a pair of Jordans come out and all you gotta do is be online when they come out and released at 10 o'clock, and the retail is $190. You may have $270 allotted for those Jordans, but if they $190 and they online and you can buy them, you just got to be fast enough. That's what you're looking to do. You may have to find yourself, you lost out there. You may have to find yourself, go to StockX. You really want these shoes and pay $250 for them, $60 more than retail. But if you want them, you'll do it. But that's because you're desperate. Washington shouldn't have given up 2 threes and damn near $30 million of Carson Wentz's contract. I don't care that you can get out of it after 1 year. I don't care. I'm eating his salary and I'm eating the roster bonus that he's about to get. I'm eating all of it. So no, you don't get a third that can turn into a 2. You get my third this year and that's it. That's what the Colts just gave up for Matt Ryan. And had we waited and stopped looking so desperate, my position was this: had we not been whoring ourselves this whole entire offseason, desperate, falling over every quarterback that was available and letting anybody that had a quarterback, didn't even have to have him available, just have a quarterback. If we didn't let everybody and their mamas know that we were desperate, we wouldn't have found ourselves in a position where the Colts are looking at us like food. Because that's what the Colts are. They looked at us like food. You ever watch Tom and Jerry? And they look at Tom after he does something stupid, and it's like a picture of a can and it says dunce. That's how the Colts were looking at us. Or Spike was looking at Tom like a big, fat, juicy steak that he was about to devour. The Colts saw us coming, and they saw a mark. Oh, shit, Washington called us. Oh, ain't that the same? That's the same Washington that was knocking at the door at the combine, trying to bust in the Seattle Seahawks room, right? Trying to get Russell Wilson, right? That's the same Washington, right? Oh, man, they desperate. Okay, yeah. That's the same Washington, right? The one that's been calling everybody. That called the Raiders for Derek Carr. That called the Packers. That called Seattle. Tried to bust in their room at the Combine. I just made that part up. Okay, don't think that Washington actually tried to bust in their room at the Combine. All right. This is the same Washington that's been out here heavy in these streets, telling anybody that would listen they need a quarterback. Oh, yeah, we about to hold them. All I was saying was because you were so damn desperate, you allowed the Colts to get the best of you. There was no way we should have been giving up 2 picks. I don't care. I've already told you. I don't care about the money. I don't care about the draft picks. I don't care about any of it. At the end of the day, if we get the quarterback that is able to solve this riddle for us, this puzzle, this conundrum that we've had for damn near 4 decades, if we're able to solve that, that's all that matters. But let it be known, yeah, we did overpay. With draft compensation, we overpaid. And the Colts deal, and I don't want to hear the 8 years older shit. The age doesn't matter. If that were Tom Brady, if you were subbing out Matt Ryan for Tom Brady, would you care that Tom Brady's 15 years older than Carson Wentz? No, you wouldn't. So don't talk to me about age. Don't talk to me about age. I watch Matt Ryan, and some people say he's washed. Okay, fine. You say what you want. He was 20 over 12 last year. No, he wasn't great. Do you know what Matt Ryan had to deal with last year? His offensive line was trash. He had nobody to throw the football to except a running back and a tight end, okay? And he went out there with no run game, may I add, no run game. And he went out there and put the Falcons in a position to make the playoffs. Don't talk to me about, Matt Ryan is this and Matt Ryan is that. No, he's not Matty Ice from 5-6 years ago. That ship sailed. But you know what? He's a serviceable NFL quarterback that can win you football games. So don't miss me with the whole 8 years younger, this, that, and the third. Because if it were Tom Brady, you wouldn't be having Russell Wilson's 33. You want Carson Wentz because he's younger? Don't talk to me about age. At the end of the day, Carson Wentz is in the same boat as Matt Ryan. We still don't know what the hell we've got. So at the end of the day, we overpaid. And it's okay to say we overpaid. But guess what? If it turns out to work, who cares about the overpay? It's the same discussion we had about Brandon Sheriff. We spent the 5th overall pick on a damn guard. Who does that? Who gives a shit? The man was an all-pro and a 5-time Pro Bowler. Who gives a shit that we spent the 5th pick on a guard? If it works, nobody cares. But at the end of the day, make no mistake about it, we overpaid. I don't care. But I'm making sure you're aware that we overpaid. Just because you can pay for something doesn't mean you need to pay more for it. If you can get something for $200 and it's retailed at $300, if you can get it for $200, why would you not pay $200? Wouldn't you want to pay $200 for it instead of $300? We essentially gave the Colts an extra pick when we didn't need to, because we're taking on the salary. So you don't get another pick. But we were desperate. They knew we were desperate. They smelt our desperation. And they said, hey, bro, if we don't trade him to you and we release him, we're going to get a 3rd round pick in compensation, because he's going to sign somewhere else and we're going to get a compensatory pick next year for a 3. So if you don't give me the other 3, you ain't getting Carson Wentz. And we know you desperate. What you going to do? Because if we cut him, he not going to choose you. And you and I both know it. What you going to do? You know what you're going to do? You don't give me the goddamn 3 I'm asking for. And matter of fact, make it a 2. Make it a 2. They hold us. So anybody that wants to sit here and say we didn't get hold, you're wrong. However, I don't care. I've said it already. I don't care about the money. I don't care about the compensation. I just want to win. But we got hold. And that deal that the Colts just got proves it. When you're eating someone's it's not just that one. And I get it. It's not apples to apples, because the Cowboys didn't trade a quarterback. They traded a wide receiver. It doesn't matter. The Browns ate his contract. The Cowboys wanted out of his contract. They ate that contract, so they said, we can't hold you in draft compensation because you're doing us a favor. We saw the same thing happen last year. where the Lions essentially said, hey, we need another first round pick from you. We eating Jared Goff. You don't want Jared Goff. And we're eating his entire deal, which you were stuck with. We doing you this favor. I need another first round pick. And the Rams said, you know what? You are doing us a huge favor. Not only are you giving us a quarterback we think we can win the Super Bowl with, you're taking all of this salary that we don't want off our books. Yeah, we'll throw in that extra one. We appreciate y'all. It's working in the reverse. We're taking on the salary. So if we're taking on the salary, we shouldn't be throwing in another pick. We shouldn't be doing that. It should work the other way around. You should be taking less because we're doing you a favor. But they said, no, we doing you a favor. You need a quarterback. You need a quarterback. And if we don't trade him to you, you ain't getting one. Which they were right. Anyway, I digress. Got a super chat. This one is from Kevin the PRF. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Kevin the PRF writes, okay, what would you do with Hamilton? All QBs and receivers sitting there, and the only teams calling you have no first rounder. You're asking me to trade out of the first round totally? That's a no-go for me. Are you crazy? Not trading out of the first round altogether. Now, obviously, if they had no first rounder this year, that means they got a first rounder next year or a first rounder the year after that. Like, you could get your first round pick back. Now, you could use that as Carson Wentz protection, right? Like, you could, if somebody's calling you that's not in the first round, that means they're in the second round and they are desperate for one of these guys in the first round. You could absolutely rape them. I mean, just take them out back to the woodshed and just absolutely take it to them, right? I mean, for a team to come back into the first round and get all the way to 11, you'd have to think that that's going to require, obviously, a 1, clearly. But that's probably 2 2s. So I'd take your 2 that year. Clearly, we would swap the 1 for 2. I want your 2 next year in addition to your 1 next year. And I need some compensation for this year's draft because I'm moving out of the first round altogether. So I want your 3 or your 4 this year, So you could really take it to somebody. But in the present day, you're hurting yourself if you don't take a guy at 11 or a first round pick. I get it. It's a deep draft. And again, this would go back to the philosophy. If you look at your board and you say, we only had 7 guys in here that we loved and that everybody else we're willing to trade back because we feel like everybody else is close together, then yeah, you can trade out of the first round altogether. But I highly doubt that. There's definitely some separation between maybe the first 15 to 20 guys in the draft, and then there's probably a little gap, and then you get to everybody else, and then there's maybe another gap, between the next 30, 40 players, and then there's a gap. There's a gap. So if somebody's calling me from the second round, you don't have a first, I can't do that. I can't move that far back. I still want a first round pick because I can still get compensation from you just moving back 4 spots, 5 spots, 6 spots. You're asking me to move back 20, 30 some odd spots. I got to have something right now that's tangible. You feel what I'm saying? I think in order to do something like that, there would need to be a player that I could then sell myself on saying, this is my first round pick, this player that I just got. So that's a hard sell. That's a really tough sell if I'm a team and somebody's trying to offer me, unless I have no interest in anybody that's sitting there at 11 and really no interest with anybody that's going to be there for the next 20, 30 picks, which is hard. It's hard to envision that. Dejan Bell, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, what's prompting JDR to put Cole at middle linebacker? Well, they won't put him at middle linebacker. He wants to play middle linebacker. He played it in college at North Carolina. He feels like he's more comfortable there, but they don't want him there for whatever reason. And maybe it may be just that they're more comfortable with him at strong side linebacker. And he's played well there for us. And maybe that's just where they want him. But they won't put him at middle linebacker. And he wants that. Like I said, at the end of the season, he was politicking it to be the middle linebacker. He's like, I already got the green dot on my helmet. I'm already getting dudes lined up. But you asking me to do it all the way from the right side of the field or the left side of the field, depending on what side of the ball you're looking at it from. You're looking at it from the defensive side. You asking me to do that all the way from the left side of the defense. I'm screaming to a guy all the way on the right side. Well, you know what the call is and what we check into. Just put me in the middle. Let me have free range to get to everybody. But that's not what they want to do. All right. Let's take a couple more comments and then we'll get out of here. Dinero Reek says he threw 20 total touchdowns, just like Heineke. 4 touchdowns against us in week 4 when we were still horrendous in that secondary, which basically means he threw one touchdown a game. Besides, he's washed. He's talking about Matt Ryan. Again, some of y'all get caught up in the stats and you don't look at the actual situation. Like, you could argue Carson Wentz's offensive line wasn't great, pass protection wise. You could argue that he didn't have any weapons and he still threw 27 touchdowns. And then on the flip side, I could say, bro, you watch those games, he could have thrown 14 interceptions if dudes could catch. Okay. There were a lot of dropped interceptions. And some of those ball games where he turned out to win and he played okay, he could have played a lot worse if dudes could catch. So context is everything. I keep reminding you guys of that. Matt Ryan was on an awful team. They were awful. They didn't have a lot of talent. Who are we kidding? He made the best of a bad situation and still almost put these boys in a position to make the playoffs. I think his ass deserves more credit than you're giving him. Jay Camman says, what is going to happen to Baker Mayfield? I don't know. This whole offseason has me looking at things in a totally different light. I have no clue. I wish I could tell you. I have zero clues. Because I never thought Deshaun Watson was going to end up in Cleveland. I just didn't. Thought he was going to Atlanta or New Orleans, and really Atlanta was where I thought he would end up. I told my sister, you're getting Deshaun Watson. She's like, I don't want to hear that because until it happened, I don't want to hear it. She was right. She's like, you're not going to get me excited. She was right. I didn't think he was going to Cleveland, you know. I didn't think Russell Wilson was getting traded, period, let alone to Denver. So, I mean, I'm just as baffled as everyone else. I have no clue. To me, there's only one seat left. When you look around the league, everybody's pretty much set at the quarterback position on what they're going to do for the upcoming season, or they're looking towards the draft and saying, I'm going to do something there. Seattle is the only team that isn't, but then they got Denver's pick, which I think is 9th overall. They could still do something at quarterback. And Seattle's been real tight-lipped, like, I ain't saying shit. So that tells me you're probably looking at one of these quarterbacks like, yeah, I'm feeling them. So Seattle doesn't have to do anything technically, which is why I said they got all the leverage. If they really want Baker Mayfield, they can say, look, I got the 9th pick in the draft. I can take one of these young boys. I can wait till you release him. I could go after Jimmy Garoppolo. I mean, I got options. Is this 3? What's it going to be? I got this 3. What's it going to be? And if they say no, then you're like, all right, cool. I'll draft a dude at 9. I'll trade for Jimmy Garoppolo. I'll roll Drew Lock out there. You ain't hurting me now. That's how you negotiate. You got to make it seem like, hey, I'm good either way. Even though inside you sweating bullets, heart beating fast as hell. But you gotta make it feel like, look, shit. I mean, for real, I don't gotta do it. I'm gonna be straight either way. That's not how Washington approached the Carson Wentz deal, which is why they gave up an extra pick when they didn't have to. But they couldn't fool Indy. Indy knew how desperate they were because they told everybody how desperate they were. Let's see. Reese says Falcons could have traded Ryan last year and been a year ahead of their rebuild, but Falcons gonna Falcon. They couldn't have traded him last year. The cap ramifications were even worse. You thought they were bad this year. They ate $40 million worth of cap to trade Matt Ryan this year. It was close to 50 last year. Like, there was no way they could trade Matt Ryan last year. But what they could have done was taken one of those young boys at 4 and had this process already started, like you said. But guy could have been 1 year already in Arthur Smith's system, even though he might not have played on the field. He could have been a lot more comfortable with Arthur Smith's system right now and been ready to hit the field running this year, and you could have seen what you had. But that's not the direction they wanted to go in. I'm not here to tell them what they should or shouldn't have done. I'm just here to talk about it. Like, hey, kind of looks a little dicey right now. But, we'll see what happens. We'll see what the Falcons ultimately did, and if what they ultimately did was the right thing to do. Irish, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, love you, Lou, but see, I hate when y'all do that. Like, I already told you, you don't have to soften me up. Like, I love you, but you don't have to do that. Get to the shits. I'm a grown man. We good. I'm not going to feel any way different about you because we don't agree. So you don't have to soften me up with the, hey, dude, love your content, but nah, I don't need all of that. Tell me what you want. I mean, we can have an open debate here. And I'm not knocking you, Irish. This happens all the time. I'm just telling you for future references. If you disagree, let's talk about it. So he says, but you giving Matt Ryan way too much credit. Dude is on the downturn. I'm not saying he's not on the downturn. 38-year-old statue. Wentz greater than, okay, again, you're like the other people on Twitter that I was talking about. You're not understanding the debate. The conversation isn't whether Carson Wentz is better than Matt Ryan. Stop making this a Wentz. And so you're saying, and what you guys are trying to say is you got to give up more because Wentz is better. No, you do not. This is not about who's better. If the Colts thought Carson Wentz was that good, they would not have traded him. You use that in negotiations. Clearly, you don't think Carson Wentz is the answer, or you wouldn't be trading him. So don't talk to me about who is better. That's not the argument. You might be 100% right. As a matter of fact, you are. They're at different stages of their career. The argument isn't whether Wentz is better than Ryan. The argument is, did we give up too much in eating his $30 million of salary? Did we give up too much? The answer is yes. That's what I'm trying to tell you. If you're eating another player's salary from another team, it lessens what you're supposed to have to give up. That's it. There's nothing else to talk about. It reminds me of when Washington traded for Clinton Portis. I always look back at that deal and I say, how is it that Washington thought that they had to give up a second-round pick in addition to Champ Bailey to get Clinton Portis? That always baffles me. It should have been the other way around. Man, we giving you a future Hall of Famer at the cornerback position. Who didn't know Champ Bailey was going to be a Hall of Famer after his first 3 years in Washington? We giving you a future Hall of Famer. All you giving me is a running back. Yep, he's coming off of 2 1,500-yard seasons. He a running back, though. You should be throwing in the second-round pick, not me. At the end of the day, we gave up an extra pick when we did. And to make matters worse, we gave up an extra pick, and it's conditional. It can even turn into a 2. They got over. It's okay to admit that you got. It's okay. Because as I mentioned, I said this already, I don't care. I just want Carson Wentz to be good. I don't care about, I said this at the top, when we traded for him, I don't care about the compensation. I don't care about the money. I just want him to be good. But let's get one thing straight. We did overpay. But I don't care nothing about that. I'll pay $300 for some phone posits. Retail value is $250. I'll pay $300 for some foams that I want. You know why? I'm going to wear the shit out them foams. I mean, I'm going to get $700 worth of wears out of them shits till the soles start to peel on them bitches. I pay $300 for them because I know what I'm getting out of them. We don't know what the hell we getting out of Carson Wentz. So you don't give up extra for him. We gave up extra for a dude that we're eating his salary. The Colts got over. It's okay. It's okay. When you're desperate, this is what happens. That's facts. That's how the Colts got last year with Carson Wentz. The Eagles knew they were desperate. You don't have Phillip Rivers. You think you're close to doing something big and you need a quarterback, and this is your boy. We know what this is. So you desperate. So we got you right where we want you. You can't be desperate when you're doing business or you get got. So let me say this one more time. I'm not going to say it again. This is not about whether Wentz is better than Ryan. Stop trying to turn the conversation into something it is not. We're not having a discussion about who's better. We're having a discussion about whether the compensation was correct. It wasn't. Now, that's, again, compensation. We never get this stuff right. When we talk about what a guy's worth and what you should trade for somebody, it's subjective. But there are now examples of what teams are giving up, and this goes back to last year with the trade with Goff in the Rams. You see how this works, how this mechanism works. When we're taking on salary for you, this is how this mechanism works. Somehow we were able, because we're Washington, we're able to flip the mechanism and have it work in the favor of the team that is actually being benefited by us taking the salary off their hands. They were in between a rock and a hard place. Either you're going to eat this salary, you're going to pay him this roster bonus that you don't want to pay him the start of the new league year, or you're going to have to release him, or you could trade him. And they were in a rock and a hard place, and we bailed them out. And not only did we bail them out, we gave them extra compensation because we were in a tough spot, and they knew that, and they took advantage of it. All right. Anyway, let's see. How long we been at this? Oh shit, we rolling up on 2 hours. We're about to get out of here. All right, let's transition to our final segment of the show. Garbage time. So, David Ojabo, edge rusher for the Michigan Wolverines, worked out at his pro day and tore his ACL or Achilles. I think it was his Achilles, actually. And there was a lot on socials about the reaction to it. You know, the guy that's running the drill, he's throwing the football. Ojabo picks the pass off. He's doing an agility drill and then showing his ability out in space to attack the football. He picks it off, and he's making that run back towards the end zone, and his Achilles just snaps. Bow! It just goes. He goes down in a heap. Ball goes down, and the guy calmly walks over to the football, not to David Ojabo, but to the football, picks it up, looks at Ojabo, and he's looking at everybody like, hey, y'all need to come get this dude. He hurt. And it was, I'm trying to think of my man from NFL Network, Bucky Brooks. It was Bucky Brooks that drew attention to this and really made it a national story, where he retweeted the video of the guy picking up the ball and walking right by David Ojabo while he's writhing on the ground in pain. Clearly, this man's first-round hopes are dashed at this point. He will not be a first-round pick because he can't play for you this season, more likely than not. So, and maybe he'll be able to come back. I saw something amazing last year where Cam Akers, tore his Achilles and came back and played in week 16, 17. I've never seen anything like it before. So modern science and technology is getting better and better every year, and these guys are finding themselves being able to come back faster and faster from these injuries. That said, everybody is not the same. So he tears his Achilles. He's on the ground, and Bucky Brooks is essentially like, look, I know the NFL is a cold-hearted business. However, and I'm paraphrasing. You can go and find the actual tweet. He says, I know it's a cold-hearted business. However, this is a man, we're talking a human being down here writhing in pain on the ground. A guy's first round hopes, dreams, everything he's worked for dashed just like that. Not saying his football career is over, but it's dashed. I need for y'all to be more compassionate than to walk over to the ball and go on to the next drill as if this man isn't on the ground with a torn Achilles. ruptured Achilles. And I'm not gonna lie, the clip that he posted looks bad, but we all know better than to think that that's all that happened. Okay, he received the medical attention. They didn't just go to the next drill, but to his point, there wasn't this sense of urgency where I need to get over there. You had people like lifeguards. I told you I am a certified lurker, so I go in the comment section unless the spirit moves me to comment. I'm just gonna like it, repost, you know what I mean, retweet it, and I'm gonna just move on. But I'm gonna go in that comment section and I'm gonna read these comments though. And so I'm looking at all these comments. You got people, that think they are certified to speak on the situation because I'm a lifeguard. Okay, I'm a lifeguard, and when we have a situation, the first thing that we do is we secure the perimeter. Okay, lifeguard guy, thank you. This man is not drowning. His life is not in danger. And I don't think if somebody's life is in danger, the first thing you're going to say is, everybody, please back up. We need 10 feet of space in a circumference to make sure that we secure this area so that I can give CPR and make sure that this person does not die. I don't think that's how that goes. Anyway, I digress. The man is on the ground. The last thing I'm worried about if I'm running the drills is, let me go pick up the ball. Let me retrieve the football. I don't think you're going to make David Ajabo's injury any worse by running over to him, taking a knee and saying, my God, are you okay? Hey, can we get some medical assistance over here? I don't think you're going to make his injury any worse by doing that. I didn't tell you to roll him over or try to help him up. The human being thing to do is to go over. To hell with the football. Who gives a shit about the ball right now? The last thing I need to worry about is whether that Wilson leather that's laying on the ground is going to survive. He'll be fine. Okay. I'm worried about the guy that's actually writhing in pain on the ground to see if he's okay. Anyway, I said all of that to say this. There will come a time, and we're getting close to this. We're seeing it trickle down. There will come a time when the last time you will see these prospects will be at the combine. Now, clearly, if you're not invited to the combine, then you need to work out at a pro day. But there will come a time where these prospects, because you see what's happening at the combine. If you're a top name, I'm not working out at the combine. To hell with that. You know why? Their agent is saying, look, every time you step out on a field and you do drills, and it doesn't matter what kind, you're putting yourself at risk. Because at any moment, your knee could snap, your Achilles could go, and that means that your first round designation goes with it. And all of those dollars that you promised me as your handler, all of these different things I've been paying for, because I know you're going to be a first round pick, you ain't going to be able to pay me back right away for them, because you're not getting that big boy top 5, top 10, top 15 money anymore. Now you're getting second round money. Now you're getting that Miles Jack treatment. So what you're going to start to see, and I'm telling you, it's going to happen sooner rather than later. It started with Christian McCaffrey saying, yeah, my team's not going for a national championship, so I'm going to sit out this bowl game. It started with that. And it matriculated its way to the combine. Now you're seeing guys like, yeah, I'm good. I'm going to just come in, get my medical, do all the interviews, but I'm not running, I'm not jumping, I'm not testing, I'm not doing nothing. I'll do that at my pro day. Because you're not going to get me twice. So I'll do it at the combine. You can either do it at the combine or you can do it at your pro day. But I'm not doing it twice. You got to pick. You want me to do it at the combine? Because I can do it at the combine. I'm not doing it again at my pro day. And some guys do that. They stand on their combine numbers and they don't do any of that stuff. They just, weigh in again, or they might, jump. They didn't love their broad jump at the combine. They might jump or something, but they ain't doing any of the on-field drills. You're going to get to a point where these dudes are going to say, my tape speaks for itself. I will measure. I will jump. I will, I'll do the broad. I'll do the vert. I will, do the weight on the bench. I will measure. I'll do all the medical. I'll go through all the interviews. I'm not doing a damn thing on the field. This is another example of somebody going out here, putting his body on the line multiple times. I mean, if you saw me at the combine, why you need to see me again in my pro day? Again, I don't remember if David Ojabo worked out at the combine or not, but it's going to get to a point where these players realize it's not worth it. It's not worth it. My tape speaks for itself. You know what kind of a player I am. It's one thing to see quarterbacks throw the ball. They're not really putting themselves at risk. When they script 70 throws, indoors, controlled environment, they're not really putting themselves at risk. You know, they just dropping back and letting it fly. When these dudes are stopping, cutting, jumping, running, changing direction, they putting a lot of strain on their body. For what? You already know what this is. You already know what I am. You saw what kind of an athlete I am. It's going to be one and done for a lot of these prospects moving forward. You know, you're going to have to pick. You're not going to see me twice. I'm not working out at my combine and then at the combine and then coming in and working again at the pro day. And for some of these dudes, you might not see me at all. I had a prestigious collegiate career. I'm an elite athlete. You know this. You're just going to have to trust the tape. I'm not showing you a damn thing. And if you don't pick me, somebody will. All it takes is one team to fall in love. That's an unfortunate situation for a guy like David Ojabo, who worked his career in his entire life to get to this point, and he's probably not going to be a first-round pick now. But I think situations like that are going to start to have, you know, real ramifications and consequences. I think you could see a situation where guys are like, "Nah, I'm good. I'm not working out pre-draft. Sorry, not sorry. Either you could draft me or you cannot draft me. Somebody in the first round." Just know that if a guy's got top 5, top 10 talent, and teams, because he didn't work out, decide to pay, don't think that a team sitting at 12 or 13, they're not licking their chops like, shit, you don't want him, I'll take him. He wouldn't be here if he worked out. Don't think for 1 second that if you interview a guy, you love him, and the tape matches, you're going to pick him. Whether he worked, you may not love the fact that he didn't work out for you, and that's becoming a new trend, but guess what? Somebody's going to take him, and he's going to turn into a hell of a football player. We'll see. I mean, at the end of the day, I could say this, but if somebody says, I'm willing to make you the number 1 pick in the draft, number 2, I just need you to work out for me, you're going to do it. Okay? You're going to do it. But it's going to be some guys out there that's like, nah, I'm not willing to do that. Either you could take me at number 1 with the tape that I put forth, the interviews that we've had, and some of the measurables that I provided you with. I showed you that I'm explosive by the way I jumped and the way that I my vertical and my broad jump. I showed you explosion. You saw the tape. You know how fast I am. I could even run a 40 for you. I'm shocked that more guys don't get hurt pre-draft. It is amazing to me. With the way these guys are, you know, tightly wound and twitched up, I'm shocked that more guys don't tear ACLs. And I'm not wishing this on them. Let me knock on a little bit of wood. I'm not wishing this on anybody. I'm just shocked it doesn't happen more often. Because they put a lot of wear and tear on their body during this time of the year, training, and then you know, for the combine, and then for these pro days. I'm shocked we don't hear about this more often, honestly. It's an unfortunate situation, man. My heart goes out to David Ojabo, because you just imagine you working towards something your entire life. And again, it's not like the man isn't going to get to play football. But there's a big difference between top 10, top 15, and second round money. It's a huge difference, which is why all these guys jockey in position for being a top 5, top 10, top 15 pick, because the money is totally different. That's rough. That's really, really rough. Let's see. Got another super chat here from Irish. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you, Irish. Double up. Thank you for doubling up, Irish, who writes, like Ron said, no one would care what we paid if he performs on the field. The picks don't bother me. The salary does, which is my point. If the salary bothers you, which it doesn't bother me, okay? I don't like the fact that we had to cut guys that we planned on keeping because we inherited his salary. That's another reason why Washington should have played hardball. Like, look, I'm going to have to make some moves. The Colts don't care nothing about that, though. They don't care what you have to do on your end to make his contract fit. They just want you to take his contract off their hands. What you do after that is on you. That doesn't have anything to do with me. And you're not going to put that on me. But if I'm Washington, I am putting that on your plate. Because that is a part of this trade. What I do after I trade for him and take that off is going to impact my salary situation. I got $33 million of cap space. I pull him into my mix. I only got $5 million of cap space left. I'm not giving you an additional 3 that could turn into a 2, and I got to eat $28 million worth of cap. Sorry, I'm not doing that. But we were desperate. So we do care what you pay. We would have been a lot more pissed off if Ron paid a first-round pick for Carson Wentz. You would have cared about the draft capital. He can't say no one cares. You do care. But if he turns out to be good, nobody cares then. But we don't know that right now, so in the moment, we do care. And had we traded for Matthew Stafford last year and we had given up 2 1s, we would have cared then. Because I guarantee you, we would not have won the Super Bowl with Matthew Stafford. I guarantee you that. We would have cared that we gave up 2 first-round picks for him. So you can't just say we won't care. But in this particular instance, 2 3s or a 3 that turns into a 2, who gives a shit if you found your franchise quarterback? Nobody cares about that. That's not 2 1s. So it's a totally different conversation. But I agree. This is why I told you I don't care about the conversation. If he's good, I don't care. I don't care. But it doesn't change the fact that we overpaid. And that's my point. But I don't care. I've stated that already. Chilled Dude, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, where is Baker and Jimmy going to land? QB musical chairs almost complete. Time to have a really good draft. Love you, Lou. Likewise, Chilled Dude, man. Really appreciate you. I said this earlier. I have no idea where these dudes are going to end up. I mean, Seattle is really the only chair left in this game of musical chairs. And honestly speaking, they don't have to do anything to the Seahawks. Because if looking at the Seahawks, they may not be as far away from winning as we think. They get good quarterback play, and they may be right in the mix, right? But everybody looks at Seattle and says, hey, y'all ain't winning shit. Y'all ain't close to winning shit. You might as well draft a young boy or see what Drew Lock has and keep it pushing. So they could do that. They could definitely do that. Or they could say, no, we got DK Metcalf. We got Tyler Lockett. We got some good running backs that we like. You know, we still think defensively we can hold our own. You give us some good quarterback play, we'll be right in the mix. The NFC, as I mentioned already, it's not all that. Okay, we can be one of the best 7 teams. Why not? So there's that thought process as well. I don't think Seattle is pressed to go after one of these boys. And when you look at this game of musical chairs, as you referenced it and referred to it as, it's almost done. I mean, you look around the league, everybody is pretty much settled in on the dude. Pittsburgh went and got Mitchell Trubisky. I think they're going to double down, draft a guy. Washington traded for Carson Wentz. The Saints settled in on Jameis Winston. The Falcons went and got Marcus Mariota. I still think they're going to draft a guy, but they got Marcus Mariota. The Browns have Deshaun Watson. Rodgers stays put in Green Bay. The Broncos ended up the only teams that don't have a quarterback when this whole thing started that don't have a quarterback that they should feel good about are the Panthers and the Seahawks. After the Seahawks traded Russell Wilson, they became one of the teams that needed a quarterback, even though they traded and got Drew Lock in exchange in that deal. They still need a quarterback. Now, Drew Lock could turn out to be really good for them, but the Giants showed interest in quarterbacks, but it was only to have someone come in and compete with Daniel Jones. It wasn't to totally unseat Daniel Jones and, oh, yeah, we're done with Daniel Jones. It was just, hey, let's have a guy come in here and compete with Daniel Jones, right? You're not trading for someone to do that. So, to me, it's Seattle and Carolina is clearly not interested in any of these dudes. nor should they be. And Seattle's like, hey, we good. Because, like I said, Carolina, their eyes are set on drafting Kenny Pickett. Remember, and I said this before, I said it again, Kenny Pickett was recruited by their head coach, Carolina's head coach, at Temple, when he was at Temple, before he moved on to Baylor. So Matt Rule knows what Kenny Pickett is about, just like Cliff Kingsbury recruited Kyler Murray when he was at Texas Tech. And he ended up going to Oklahoma. When you love a guy in high school, that shit doesn't go away. Carolina's cool, and I think Seattle's cool. So I don't know where these dudes going to end up. It's a great question. Chris Lou, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, Chris Lou, writes, what's up, Louie? What's up, Chris? So it's been a minute. Stopping by to salute and contribute. The Wentz trade doesn't look that bad when I see what's happening with the QBs. It doesn't. It really doesn't. And you also have to take into consideration, Washington didn't have many options. Like, that was one of the few options they had available to them, because Wentz didn't have a no trade clause. So he didn't have any say-so whether he was going to go to Washington or not. A lot of these quarterbacks do have no trade clauses. When you sign a contract and you're in control, one of the things you put in that contract is, I want a no trade clause so I can determine my next destination in case you decide you're done with me. You don't get to decide you're done with me and where I go. If you decide you're done with me, or I decide I'm done with you, I still get to plan out my next move. Carson Wentz didn't have that ability to say no. So he didn't have a choice. So Washington could then pursue him. I talked about Jimmy Garoppolo potentially saying no. You know, there was rumors out there, innuendo, that he would have potentially said no if Washington had made an offer for him. He stinks. He's ass cheeks. And getting turned down by a guy like Jimmy Garoppolo makes you seem like you're desperate, which we were. So in order to avoid all of that, Washington did the thing that they had to do. And like you said, when you look at how these teams are, you know, going after these quarterbacks, you feel good about Carson Wentz and what he could potentially be, but still got to see it on the field and in the locker room. You know, results. This is a results-based league. We can feel as good as we want to be. A lot of the same people that are saying they feel good about this Wentz deal felt good about Ryan Fitzpatrick last year. Okay. So you can feel as good as you want in March. I want to feel good in January and February of next year. That's when I want to feel good. P-Low Dollars, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for the super chat being a one more shout out to my guy Chris Lou. Thank you for the super chat. And it's been a while, and I'm glad to hear from you, man. P-Low Dollars writes, sup, Lou? Just wanted to send a shout out. CashApp card was stolen. That's never good. Damn, they're coming after CashApp cards now? That's pretty low down, man. If you coming after somebody's CashApp card, that's rough. You know, it's one thing to go after somebody's debit card or credit card. CashApp card, though? That's low down, man. That's low down dirty right there. Says just trying to get that straight, man. I hope you get that situation, you know, resolved. That sucks. Go Washington. Really appreciate you, P-Low Dollars. Thank you for the super chat and the love. All right, so that's gonna do it for me, your man Louie T, here on the 247th installment of the Louie T Network podcast. That was fun. That was a lot of fun. Enjoyed that thoroughly. Look forward to chopping it up with you guys on the next episode. I don't know if that's going to be tomorrow or if it's going to be Friday. I want to get back to a normal schedule. My schedule has been anything but normal of late. So that's why it's been like random days. And then, you know, we've had a whole bunch of bombshells and breaking news and things of that nature that have turned everything upside down. I may do one tomorrow. I may try to get back on track Friday and then, or Wednesday and then Friday, but we'll see. I can't make you any guarantees. So in any event, truly do appreciate you guys for kicking it with the kid, you know, on a random day. First of all, this podcast is usually not a Tuesday thing. So to jump on here live with the kid, I really appreciate it. And then it's a random time. I usually don't do podcasts at 1 p.m. But again, different circumstances, different situation warrants different reaction, and y'all still came and held the kid down. So I appreciate each and every single one of you guys. So with that said, I'll glide to the side, allow you to get back to whatever it was you were doing before I rudely interrupted your day. Look forward to chopping it up with you the next time on the Louie T Network podcast. You know what this is. Get off the bench, get in the game, and kick it with me, your man, Louie T. Until next time, you guys, enjoy the rest of your day and have a good one.
Louie T Network.